Hello, fellow students. This is Ben Barlow. I'm doing my report or presentation on leadership. As you can see the on the screen, it is Muhammad as leader that I chose for. And let's start. In the introduction, there's two parts that I want to talk to you about. One is his life; it's from birth to death. But also there are some special considerations that need to be talked about before I begin. The first consideration is in the area and time where Muhammad lived. It presents some special considerations. When I present comparisons between leadership styles of today and those of Muhammad's time, there must be consideration given for the economical background and culture of his day. In comparing a rural agrarian society uh, that has trade with an industrial and service-based economy like ours, there must be some allowances for dissimilarities of different economic types. Second is Western-based cultures such as our are morally and ethically based on a theory of what is right and what is wrong. Muhammad's time, where he lived at, pre-Islamic and Islamic cultures in the Middle East are honor and shame-based cultures. Difference or importance of honor shame-based societies is critical in understanding historical events when comparing moral decision-making comparisons in modern leadership theories, understanding the rationale of some of Muhammad's decisions as a leader. Honor and shame-based societies, they rule every aspect of their life when they make decisions upon what brings honor to my family and what actions prevent shame on my family. Let's move forward. Really quickly, if you're going to have any type of ministry for Muslims, two books here I suggest: A Muslim Mind and A Muslim Heart from Edgar Hoskins. The birth: Muhammad was born at 570 AD in Mecca. His father died before he was born, and he lost his mother when he was 5 years old. Since his mother's death, he was first raised by his grandfather and then his uncle. He belonged to a respectable family of trade. They were also heavily involved in politics and religion. In his teens, Muhammad accompanied his uncle to Syria, and during some of those caravans, he came in contact with a Christian monk or hermit named Bahira, who was said to have foreseen Muhammad's career as a prophet of God. Also, his uncles took him on caravan raids and tribal wars up to around age 20. He actually participated in a war called the Wicked War because, as it shows here, it was considered right to do wrong. It was during two holy months. The Christian monk called Bahir is critical in the formation of Muhammad as a prophet. It says that he had very deep knowledge of Christian faith, but it's my conjecture that he was someone from what's mentioned in the Bible as the Nestorians. They denied the crucifixion of Christ and also the resurrection. And I believe it's this false doctrine that led Muhammad to becoming a prophet. More earlier influences, he came into contact with his future wife Khadija. She was 15 years old, his senior. His experience of leading caravans with his uncles got back to her, and she heard of his management of caravans and leadership during raids, sacking, and Khadija heard also about his veracity, honesty, and also his commitment to religion. Because Muhammad's uncles were then deceased, it was considered providential that Muhammad received the marriage proposal from Khadija because without her wealth and influence, even though he came from a good family, some actually think that he may not even become a prophet at all without her, her backing. All right, this is just a picture of Mount Jabal al Nur. This is where he supposedly got his revelations from the angel Gabriel. If you want to read more about that, that's in chapter 96 of the Quran. For the next 12 years after he started getting revelations, he preached the message of Islam. Uh, he was tolerated because he didn't have a lot of followers. But when he started attacking the polytheistic gods of the Meccan people, that's how they made their money from all the pilgrimages. Several nobles came to his uncle before he died and said, "Your nephew has insulted our gods and condemned our religion or their business. You must either restrain him or allow us free action against him," or they basically wanted to kill him. Becoming a statesman, this is key, and I want you guys to remember that there were a bunch of tribes in Medina that were Jewish that were having a big kerfuffle, if you want to call it, between the tribes, and they heard about him being faithful and trustworthy and truthful. These are his nicknames, Al Amin and Al Siddiq. So they contacted him, and he actually went up there, and they agreed that he could bring his followers up there. And this is pivotal in the history of Islam, the movement from Mecca to Medina. It's actually called the Hijra, and their calendar is actually based upon that move. The contrast between Mecca and Medina period is critical. It shows right here that when they moved to Mecca, they had no source of income, so he began again with his old trade that he learned from his uncles. He started to do raids. His six first raids failed. Seventh, which is called the Nakhla raid, was successful. The only part that was wrong in it happened during one of the holier months in Mecca, and an innocent man was killed. This eventually led to war between the Muslims and Mecca. Um, he also continued doing raids when they moved to Medina. Um, this shows the change of attitudes for Muhammad from Mecca surahs, which are peaceful, um, to a more violent ones in Medina. He finally had some success, and with the large army that he had, he took back Mecca in the year of 630. There were also battles called the Battle of the Trench and the Battle of Uhud. Um, Here's the difference. What I was telling you, he was very peaceful with the Meccans before he got some power, but then it went from peace to fight those who do not believe in Allah nor in the latter day. It says here that non-Muslims had to pay a tax and acknowledge the superiority of Muslims. Again, here's just some more. I will expel the Jews and Christians from the Arabian Peninsula. This is key. The Jewish tribes that he actually was invited to Medina, um, they didn't accept him as a prophet because the Jews knew their books and the Christians there knew their books. Um, he surrounded the area where the Jews were at for 25 nights, and this is how they were. That God cast terror in their hearts. They were starved out. Ultimately, they capitulated. Muhammad took all of them as captures, forced them to dig the trenches, and he took them out there, beheaded them. Some say 6 to 7, some say 8 to 900. Um, Kind of some, I won't call it funny, but one of the women, her husband was killed in that raid. She learned about what Muhammad really liked to eat, and she cooked it for him, and she put a lot of poison in it. Although as it says here, he did not swallow and he spat it out. It is believed that that poison led to a sickness in his stomach and intestines that eventually killed him. Uh, what caused her to be killed was some of his friends were actually killed by the poison. Going to section 2, this is the path goal theory. I highlighted some sections to make my presentation a little bit quicker. Um, Followers, this is from Nordhaus, our book, goal attainment providing information rewards in the work environment. There was a situation where Muhammad actually did a raid and he didn't know that some of his family members were there. And if you remember, I stated that some of the things about honor, he had to actually make sure that his family's members were safe, but he also had to maintain the honor of the people who were helping him conduct the raids. So, confronting the needs of his followers and the needs to protect even his distant family members, Muhammad knew the motivation needs of his followers. It was basically money, or they called it booty a lot, and also the slaves that they would get. But he had to negotiate the safety for his family. Muhammad knew his followers well. They were called Bedouins, and he actually promised 6 camels that proved to be more attractive than getting more women that were actually a burden on the men who would get these slaves because they would have to feed them. Typically, when Muhammad had a raid, he would issue no orders. Basically, all the men would be killed, and they would divvy up the booty, and there would be no discussion. Muhammad allowed his followers and himself to retain public honor, but also a free trade negotiation. Muhammad offered his followers a larger portion, like I said, and his secured his family members' release. And I typed like, and I put down here by settling the financial and honor needs of both sides, Muhammad demonstrated that he could adjust his leadership style to meet the needs not only his but also of his followers. And it says here the heart of the path goal leadership suggests that they engage in behaviors that complement subordinates. They facilitate a healthy and productive work environment to propel followers' success. Like I said, it was a ruler grand society, and although we as Christians want to judge him because he killed all the males and took the women uh, into slavery, leaders provide followers with the elements they think followers need to reach their goals. Muhammad met his goals, needs, but he also met the needs of his followers. And taking everything out, from what we as Christians hate, I do believe he was a leader according to this theory because he did meet the needs of his followers. LMX theory, the relationship can be is based on equality, but based on an asymmetrical or hierarchical relation. This is from Merriam-Webster Collegiate Dictionary. I highlighted here: Christian Jews were always seen as the out group or master servant. The second being that Muslims were always seen as the in group. Went on. It is important to recognize the existence of in groups and out groups within a group organizations. The in group, the Muslims, are always willing to do more. The out groups, rather than trying to do extra work, they operate strictly within the prescribed operational goals, doing nothing more. And it's also correlating between Muhammad's military success and the rejection of Muhammad as a prophet that led to the change in the treatment of the Jews and Christians, and also the number of followers of Islam. You can see here the difference of, like, for example, in groups and out groups. Here's a Meccan surah. It says, treat them kindly. Here's a Medina surah. Kill them wherever you find them. Um, treat Leaders treat out group members fairly and according to formal contracts. If you take a look at, there's definitely a treatment. Uh, it says here fairly and according to formal contract. Muhammad didn't treat them fairly, um, but they did not give them special attention. Out group members receive standard benefits as defined as a job description. Those followers of Islam or members of the in group definitely accomplished more and in a more effective manner. While the unbelievers or the out group do what is required, unfortunately, as we'll see in the near future, unfortunately, these did so at their own peril. They were killed. So if you take a look at the master servant, what I got from Webster's College Dictionary. Um, they were, this was, they were, Muhammad was a leader in the beginning in the Meccan series of the Quranic verses because he did allow, he had equal treatment in the Meccan period, but in the Medina period where they reject him as a prophet and they rejected him as a leader, the in groups where the Muslims were treated far superior, and the out groups, which the people of the book, Christians and Jews, they were sought out, they were killed, and they were even forced to pay a tax if they were allowed to live. So Muhammad was not a leader in the end, according to this theory. Let's move on. Is Muhammad a leader according to the transformational leadership theory? Highlighted here, a person engages with others and creates a connection that raises the level of motivation and morality of both the leader and the follower. This type of leader is attentive to the needs and motives of the followers and tries to help followers reach their fullest potential. These are some non-Quranic and non-Hadith sources. These are describing what Muhammad or a leader in Islam should have: respectfulness, fairness, cooperativeness, benevolence, self-sacrifice, reliability. I'm going to touch on that a lot. Strategic thinking best signify the features of a great leader. Let's see how well he did. Also, a leader has to be charming and has to have a dominant character. Those are called, and those are important for a leader. If we go to Nordhaus, I just want to focus on this. A transformational leader transcends their own interests for the sake of others. Uh, Here's a different type of transformational leader. They talk about leaders such as Adolf Hitler. We're going to get right on that in a few seconds. If you take a look at this, I should have made this a little bit bigger. It says here again, patient, be courteous with them. But here, a Meccan man who was more than 100 years old wrote a poem criticizing Muhammad, and Muhammad demanded him killed and was murdered in his sleep. Also, a woman who was named Asma heard about the killing of the man, wrote a poem condemning the killing, and Muhammad's response, and this was in Medina, he said, "Who will rid me of this daughter?" And they had her killed. And to show that not everyone was treated fairly, the guy who killed the woman asked, "Will I have any evil consequences?" And Muhammad said, "Two goats won't even butt their heads about it." So there was no concern about some of the some of the other groups. So if I look at authentic transformational leadership, it's a socialized leadership, which is concerned with the collective good. Socialized transformational leader here like that transcends their own interests for the sake of others. He killed older people, some of the most vulnerable. He killed a woman because they were criticized of it, and there was just no. It wasn't a socialized, and it didn't transcend his own interests. He was just concerned about his own pride. So according to this theory, Muhammad was not a leader, no whatsoever. Let's move on. Is Muhammad a leader according to the authentic leadership theory? It's an interpersonal process. The leader, it doesn't happen from the leader's efforts alone, but also a response of the followers. It emerges from interaction between leaders and followers. It's a reciprocal process. Let's move on. Let's see. These are also non-Quranic sources. These are some things that our Islamic leadership should be. Um, it shows here that the policy is harmful to others or not. It doesn't matter. On the other hand, Islam does not permit such selfish deeds to a leader seeking the interest of the own group. It says, but a leader has to think about the humanity and the satisfaction that will make Allah happy. Secondly, trust has to be rendered back to the participants. In an Islamic perspective, procedures run cooperation of both the leaders and the followers. And it says here that the leader is not permitted to do any type of decision without consultation to the leader, to the followers. Let's see how well Muhammad did according to Islamic Sharia. Move it up a little bit here. I'm just going on further. I forgot about this slide. Is that a leader has to be like a shepherd? Every one of you is responsible for what he is a shepherd of. You know. So let's see how well he did. Here's some more Quranic sources. I changed my slides up to show you. These are more Quranic verses. Be patient. Be courteous. Let's see how well he did. He granted Muslims, when they did the raids, to have the rights to have sexual relationships with females. And right here, he considered them slaves. And, even if they were married, that's adultery in Christian and also in Islam later on. And if they weren't slaves, they were sold. And if, God forbid, they became pregnant, they had to wait 3 months to make sure that they weren't. And also, if they did become pregnant, they had to wait till after the women had the babies, and then they could actually divorce. I forgot about that. This is actually, you can divorce the people even if you make them pregnant. Worst of all, the prophet entered into marriage with a girl who was only 6, and consummated the marriage at age 9. This is just another one that shows that after his first wife died, he married Aisha, which is his young bride. Lastly, I talked about this. They paid, Jews and Christians had to pay a jizya, which is a tax. They had to be submissive, and they had to act subdued. Got to move up a little bit more here. Just 1 second, please. So let's take a look. If we take a look how we treated women, how we treated older men, like the 100-year-old guy, the women who criticized them. Was it a reciprocal process? Was everyone treated equally? Absolutely not. This theory, Muhammad was not a leader. He was a leader, but he wasn't a good one. This is where I think we fit, where Muhammad fits in. Is Muhammad a leader according to the pseudo transformation of leadership? It says here he is self serving. The leader is unwilling to encourage independent thought in followers and exhibits general little caring for others. I think he fits this perfectly. But let's take a look. Uh, Here is a good one. It shows you right here when Muhammad was in Mecca and he just came to Medina. He hadn't had a lot of power yet. He was trying to win the Christians and the Jews to becoming converts. He changed the direction of prayer to Jerusalem to try to win the Jews, and also he used Judaic rules for fasting to try to help the Christians and the Jews come. But when they rejected him, this you can look at the surah in the Quran, chapter 2, verse 144. Um, After he tried to do that, but when they rejected his prophethood, Muhammad reversed these decisions. He was very self-serving. More surahs. This is the Meccan one. This is the Medina. Kill them, make them pay a tax if they don't get killed. And again, this shows you that the Jews that invited him here, he ended up killing them and decapitating them. And let's just see if he was a leader according to this theory. I do believe he was. He was self-serving, or he only was interested in the interest of the Muslims, and he didn't have any care for the older people and the people who criticize him, or the Jews, or the Christians. This slide's a little messed up. It'll be corrected in the next one. Scriptural comparison for forgiveness. This is Paul right here. Paul was like Muhammad in the beginning. He did kill Christians. Is this not he that destroyed them, that he might bring them bound to the chief priest? But here's the difference. Look what happened to Paul in his life, later on in his life when he became a Christian. There is neither Jew nor Greek. Everyone's the same. There's neither bond nor free. There's no slaves. There were slaves, but that was outside Christianity. Neither male nor female. There was no difference between the sexes. For ye are all one in Jesus Christ. Meccan Surah, Be patient with what they say and part with them courteously. Uh, this is the Medina one. Kill them wherever you find them. You know, then there's more here. This is about forgiveness. Take a look about forgiveness in Islam. There was an unmarried woman found in the act of adultery. They both got at least 100 lashes. Um, and also, if people were interested in Christianity or Judaism, if they even considered it, if they turn away, seize and kill them. And take a look here in Matthew. It says here, then Peter came to him, that was Jesus, and he asked him, how often do I have to forgive a brother who forgives me, who goes against me? And Peter said, until 7 times, Lord? No, but 70 times 7. There's a definite difference in forgiveness. Treatment of women. It shows here Jesus was, they were trying to trick him, and they brought that woman out in the act of adultery. And they asked about, like, should we stone her according to the law? And when Jesus had lifted up himself and saw none, because he said, whoever has no sin cast the first stone, he said unto her, woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? And the woman said, there are none, Lord. And Jesus did say, sin no more. But let's take a look what happened to a person in Muhammad's time. And she was also caught in adultery. And when he pronounced, she was allowed to give birth to the baby, and the baby was taken away from her. And he pronounced punishment, and she was put in a ditch and covered up to her chest. Commanded the people stone her to death. That's the big difference. Slavery. I'm trying to speed up. You should do to you, do ye also and likewise unto them. That's Christianity. You should treat everyone fairly. You know, then you take a look at Muhammad. When they took women captive, they took some captives because they were excellent Arab women because they desired them because their wives were not there. And if they weren't interested in, for other reasons, they were also, desired ransom for them. This is key. This is one of my teachers. His name was Nabil Qureshi. He's a Muslim, but now he's a Christian, but now he's with the Lord. He passed away. This is from his book. The force that drove their life can best be seen when comparing Muhammad's and Jesus' life's message. One might say that this is not an equal comparison, but most Muslims believe that Muhammad was Allah's perfect example, and in some sects of Islam, Muhammad was equal to Allah. Nabil states right here, this is the difference for the way of life, law or a person. Nabil states, belief that the difference between Jesus and Muhammad is where the difference matters most is in the ultimate message of each religion. According to Islam, the way to paradise is Sharia or a code of laws to follow that will please Allah and earn His favor. Sharia is literally translated the way. According to the Christian message, the way to eternal life is Jesus. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. In Islam, Sharia is the way. In Christianity, Jesus is the way. Closing thoughts. In our textbook, it says followers gain attainment providing information and rewards in the work environment. My main key thrust here is in all my management, and I've managed thousands of people and I've been a leader. The key thing in leadership is that you have to have a stable environment, whether it be in religion or in business. And through these examples, I want to show you that in Christianity there is stability, and in Islam there is instability. Uh, Muhammad was not stable. It says here, be patient with them, be kind with them in the Meccan series. Kill them wherever you find them, drive them out. That's in one of the Medina periods. And then here, take a look in the Bible. This is in 1 Peter 1:20 and 21. Knowing this first, that no prophecy of the scripture is of any private interpretation. For the prophecy came in old time by the will of man, not known time by the will of man, but holy men of God spake as they were moved by the Holy Ghost. The Bible, whether you look at one in Egypt or in Saudi Arabia or in Turkey and Holland or United States, there may be difference between these and thous and those, but the doctrine is the same. It's almost always the same. Now let's take a look at this. Uh, Whichever ayah we relinquish or cause to be forgotten, that means that there are some verses in the Quran that are forgotten or they're replaced. We replace it with its equal or that which is greater. Did you not know that Allah is capable of all things? In Islam, it's believed that the Quran is a big tablet in heaven and it's eternal. But yet the Muslims, because there were inconsistencies in the Quran, they believed in a thing that's called abrogation. That means that if we can think up or find a different verse in a different hadith, we can actually replace it for one because it does not align with other scripture. So the area of stability means that in the Bible we have stability because it's the same, it's internal, it doesn't change. But in the Quran, it can change. Verses can be replaced. And then lastly, right here, it says here, it suggested that the pseudo transformational leadership is inspired leadership that is self serving, is unwilling to encourage independent thought in followers, and exhibits little general care for others. Muhammad, in some instances, when he wanted, for example, he wanted a woman, uh, it was his son in law's wife. The very next day, he came up with a revelation that God told him that it was all right that his nephew divorced his wife so that he could actually marry her. He had no general care for others. This is my bibliography. I just wanted to show it to you so you could um, have some ideas. I just hope you enjoyed um, my presentation. I'm sorry that I ran a little bit over, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And give me some comments, and I look forward to it. Thank you so much, and have a great day.